Welcome to another Dodgy Reg podcast with your ever-bemused host and writer, Richard Foreman. This time, we find out possibly more than we might want to know from Dodgy Reg regarding our former Queen and the secrets conveyed in The Royal Wave. At a loose end, a few days after Christmas, I've been in town browsing the charity shops for clothing and CDs when I get the sudden onset of winter weariness and a craving for the warmth you get in coffee shops and tea houses. So I head for Brews, the one such place in town that isn't a Costa, Starbucks or Coffee Number One. I'm queuing up to order, on the point of unbuttoning my coat and loosening my scarf, and thinking there ought to be a word for that feeling, one of those untranslatable into another language kind of words like higger or hirayeth. Perhaps I could invent one. Steam esteem or kawa need come to mind. But they'll need a bit of work. Neologisms are tougher than you might think. I'm wrestling with this, my brain contentedly occupied, when I notice in the far corner, behind several crowded tables of gossiping groups and squabbling families, that Reg is sat there, solitary, at a small table and studying an iPad. So once I'm laden with an Americano and a choc chip flapjack, I figure I might as well join him and see what's taking up all his attention on that little screen. Hi Reg, how's things? He looks up at me with a show of irritation. Things? What sort of things would you be referring to? You're supposed to be a word man, Rich. Can't you cut a bit closer to the quick than that? His attention returns to the iPad, while I obtain a spare chair from a nearby table and settle myself next to him. He's looking well for Reg, a recent close-cropped haircut and a trim of the beard since I last saw him. A pair of check shirts, one over the other, both quite new-looking, though almost certainly from one of the charity shops I've just been perusing. I lean to look at what he's studying on the screen. Knowing Reg, I'm prepared for anything, but it still comes as a surprise when I discover he's watching a video of Her Majesty the Queen in one of the royal vehicles, waving to her subjects. With a grin, I tell him I had no idea he was a royalist. He meets my eyes with a sour look. I'm checking to see if she's using the machine, he says through moderately clenched teeth. I hesitate before my request for elucidation. There will almost certainly be more, far more than I really want to hear. And yet, how can I stop myself? What machine would that be? The waving machine, he grumbles. The one she gets Rolls-Royce and Bentley to install in all the vehicles she uses. Coachmakers too. There's a hand on the end of it. Used to be wax from Madame Tussauds, but she gets them made of latex now. It does the waving for her. The whole royal wave thing. You know, like she's holding an upside-down light bulb. It was designed for the royal family. Least effort in itself and indistinguishable from the one the machine does. So she doesn't end up with RSI after long processions and the waves from balconies. See? I'm looking, and yes, there is something fairly mechanical about it. The hand goes up, jiggles a little, and then goes down. Goes up again, jiggles some more, and back down. But then the guards on horseback in their ceremonial uniforms look like they could be robots too. Where do you draw the line? Oh, come on, Reg. How does she keep something like that out of the public domain? She doesn't. But she obfuscates, see? Like there's a story going round that it was something that got sent to her by a bunch of students as a joke. And Her Majesty was amused, tickled pink, so they say. But you cut back to 1976, Silver Jubilee, right? Tussauds gets a waxwork with an animatronic arm ready for display. The palace vetoes it. Too close to the truth, see? 1976. Goes back a long way, this thing. I take a sip of my coffee and contemplate my flapjack. As conspiracies go, this one seems relatively harmless. No alien takeovers, and apparently no covert assassinations. What's to worry about? Why such a big deal about this, Reg? It's kind of funny, but it doesn't have a particularly sinister note. Codes, Rich. Everything about Elizabeth Windsor is to do with codes. Which hand holds the handbag, or whether she puts it down, prompts to the staff, see? What colour she wears, choice of brooch, pictures on the desk when she does the Christmas speech. That's for the people, because she can't say directly what she thinks. But it's the waves I'm interested in, the way she does them. Take a look at this. He switches from the video to a series of shots of the royal wave. It's always the same, basically. Fingers pointing upwards, holding the light bulb. But you're looking for small variations. How straight are the fingers? What's the angle of the little finger? How high is the hand? What shade are the gloves? That's the deep code, mate. That's the covert stuff. There was a time when kings and queens decided who lives and who dies. I reckon they still do. With Her Highness, it's all in the waves. Hey, this is the 21st century. Things don't... With respect, Richard. Jamal Khashoggi? Her Majesty may be subtler than the Saudis, but she's in the same game. You mark my words. And once again, I feel the pull, the force that drives me into the darkest and scariest view of our world and its prime inhabitants that can be imagined. Reason rails against it. It can't be that bad. Yet somehow it's possible. Is there a word for this feeling too? A word that can't be translated because once you know what it means, you won't want to share it. Reg looks up from the iPad and meets my eye with a ragged grin. You going to eat that, flapjack, or what? Next time we find ourselves in the days following the first UK lockdown. Richard makes the mistaken assumption that Reg buys into the conspiracy theories of QAnon, and Reg puts him straight. There is, over and above QAnon, a meta-conspiracy, and Reg is tracing its tentacles.